When you finish this, 5 minutes.
Okay, so welcome to this second day of the 13th edition, can you imagine, 13th community of users, which we dedicated this afternoon and tomorrow morning to CBRN-E. We have, well, quite a dense agenda, and I would like to maybe provide some insight into the overall framework for those who do not know the community of users. There are many people who know that already, but it's good to refresh your memory. First of all, some logistics aspects. We have two panels that will be going on after this introductory session. There is a small breakout, half an hour in principle, between the introduction and the panel. For those who did not have time to lunch, you can survive. You will be able to survive because there will be some sandwiches with boxes. So just trap a sandwich when you go into your panel rooms. I will do that because I did not have lunch either. So, and there will be two panels in sequence. And at 6:15, you will be, those who have registered, you will be able to have a dinner, walking dinner, and there will be some social gathering at 6:30 until 8:30. So this is the stuff for today. Tomorrow we have another panel. There will be a common reporting, so I will ask the chair of the different panels to come to report on what they have heard and what they think interesting to report. And a poster session, and then while the day will be closed, we will say goodbye, kiss ourselves, and so on. So, could you please put my slides? Okay, I need to just do that, yeah. Okay, so I will not be long with this because you know that already. What is important to notice when we are discussing a given theme, and it will be the case for all the themes of the community of users, we do not start from scratch. So we have a very close links with a number of policy DGs, a number of policy areas that we have obviously to consider when we are discussing, in particular here, CBRN-E. I will not give all the details, but here you will find people from DG Santé regarding health threats, environment regarding chemical accidents, for example, Seveso. You will have people dealing with standardization, for example, from DG Grow. Issues related to taxes, you know, the detection of CBRN threats in a container, for example. You will have civil protection, which is obviously interested as well, DG Eco, DG Home with the CBRN action plan, explosive action plan, and well, DG DevCo with the international network of Center of Excellence for CBRN, and so on. There are some other DGs which are indirectly concerned, but it's the way we are also interacting with them, which is very important regarding the research that we are funding, the output of research that we have to communicate in a way which is tailor-made to their needs. So if it's a little bit, I don't want to say too academic because I'm also an academic guy, so I don't criticize academic world, but it has to be really communicated in a way that it is usable to them, and it's not only to policymakers, usable to end users, to practitioners who will be using, for example, tools and technologies, and also of interest potential to industry and SMEs regarding the market dimension. So this is quite complex, and this community of users is about this, to gather different type of actors. We are also in close contact, obviously, with intergovernmental and European agencies, and we are also in contact with international organizations. So, well, I will also stress something which is more and more obvious to me when we are dealing with mapping of research and capacity building projects. When you are looking at CBRN-E, we are one of the main programs that are dealing with CBRN research, but we have also other programs, for example, EDA, European Defense Agency. There are some projects which are dealing with capacity building, ISF, internal security funds. I discovered that there are some projects funded by DG Eco, Civil Protection, which have also a component on CNB. Even Interreg projects funded by DG Regio, which are really regional projects, which are dealing with first responders facing some CBRN risk. We don't have any connection about all these projects. Research, capacity building, and sometimes education. We are losing a lot of potential regarding the critical mass in bringing actually research to capacity building and education. And this forum is also about this, to ensure that the projects which are dealing with thematic given theme are meeting on a regular basis. Sometimes it's not a bad willingness, it's simply a matter of coordination and providing a forum. This is what we want to do in the future. So this also, you know, that we need to ensure that policy-wise we are consistent when we are dealing with, for example, the Union Civil Protection Mechanism. It's an umbrella work which is related to different type of policies. To make this Union Civil Protection work, we have to ensure that chemical accidents, so the Seveso 3 directive is implemented. The CBRN Action Plan responds to its objective. The water aspects, you know, for example, well, it's more water safety than security, but also is working properly, and so on. So it's a kind of framework, so we need to speak to each other to ensure that policy-wise we are on the same wavelengths. UCPM is also related to the Sendai Framework for Action. So internationally, what are we doing? How do we link with international cooperation, humanitarian aid, and so on? Well, it's quite a complex environment, but we need to ensure this dialogue. And as I said, we need to ensure that when we have a number of projects which are dealing with, here we are speaking about CBRN, we don't miss any opportunity to bring projects to speak together. We don't say having a kind of administrative monster. We say have a dialogue, just tell the others what you are doing. And if there are some bridge of cooperation, do it. It's as simple as that. You may have, for example, a demonstration which is foreseen on a given threat, on chemical threats, for example, in a metro station, and there are two projects which are doing the same. Maybe with different angles, you know, different substances, different detectors. Well, you just use the same opportunity to use a demonstration facility, for example. You just establish synergy. And when we establish synergy, we build a critical mass, and we are much more credible towards the political decision makers. If we are scattered, if we are fragmented, we don't have any voice in decision making. Well, we have less voice in decision making. So what is important as well is that this world are very often working in silos, in different territories. We need to have people linking different dimensions. We need to have networks of practitioners or whatever, you know, of policymakers and so on, that act as mediator, telling the scientific community what those policymakers and maybe industry wish them to tackle as research and development. So they need to be educated. Don't take me wrong. They need to be briefed properly, because as a researcher, former researcher, I have my view, and I will look at my research objectives. And if there are some butterflies which are flying over, I will run after the butterflies. And I will come back. But it's research environment, and I will not maybe be trapped to a given, I would say, article of a given directive. I don't care about this. Policymakers will look at each policy and say, here I have a clear objective, which is feeding the implementation of my policy. It does not care about what all the type of research that are going on to reach its objectives. What he wants is clear outputs that say this is supporting the article of your directive. Users, they are, I would say, easily and affordable and used to easy to use. Industry SMEs, they want to ensure that there is a market for the technologies. So they need to know and to discuss with the researchers, scientific community in advance to prepare actually this entry to the market. So we have a lot of job to do to mix all things, to communicate to a larger community, which is the community of users. And it's not only you, because you will be vehicles for telling what is being discussed and informed here to your countries, and the countries, the member states, hopefully will release the information to the regions, to the regional users. It is what is at stake. We don't do that now. We are not organized. It is really a challenge that we need to tackle over the next, I say, 2 years, because we are discussing Horizon Europe now. We are just having the orientations being decided at Commission level. We will, in 2020, write the work programs, and Horizon Europe will start in early 2021. The challenge is to have a very strong exchange platform that will gather different actors so that the next framework program, we are better prepared to avoid any kind of fragmentation. So it's really something which is not for the beauty to see you in a nice place. It's really a challenge that will be helpful to the overall communities of players. So why are we here? We have defined 8 thematic groups, and the one on CBRN, we have identified panels which were related to different panels, different projects, so new actions in CBRN, chemical accidents, CBRN forensics, and so on, civil, military, and water security. And you will have to move to different places. Here there will be, I don't know exactly, I need to check that. I know that the first one on new actions in CBRN research will be in this room, so those who are decided to be in this room will stay here. Chemical accidents will be downstairs. And then I think that CBRN forensic will be also in this room, and emergency downstairs, and I need to check for tomorrow. But well, you will be making the yo-yo, in fact, between here and downstairs. So, what I would like also to stress is, and this will be my last slide, we know very well that this type of, I saw you, he's putting me light in the eyes, you know, from the sun. I saw you. I will write a report about you. So it's about governance. The issue is that if we cannot afford to get this platform going on if we don't have I don't want to say a strong institutional background, but we need to make sure that politically there will be a higher visibility, and for this we need a governance mechanism. By saying this, it means that we need to have thematic groups. We need to justify that the choice of thematic groups is right. So you are our guinea pigs. So we will see what will happen from this week, and if it's justified, we'll continue to do that. We need leadership for the thematic groups. Well, you cannot imagine the work that I had to do for the 3 thematic groups. 18 panels to organize. Well, please help me. If I can have people to take the leadership and to take over and to, I would say, spread also to projects, conferences, and so on, collect knowledge so that we may, every year, establish a kind of state-of-the-art of research, policy update, industry views, practitioners. We have this potential, but we need to work in team. We need really to have partnership being built. This is about also governance, and it will be discussed from April to September. There will be some bilateral meetings, and in October we'll propose something that will be also presented at the next security research event in Helsinki in November. And if it's okay, in 2020, we make it, we give a try. We see whether this is functioning. And if it responds to what you would expect as customers, in a way, as users, in 2021, we try to make it institutional, something more, I would say, solid. So this is the little expectation and dream, and I let you, dream with me and help if it can be achieved. And this is not possible without the help of colleagues that we are pressing, like Raymond, on a daily basis, which are from the Research Executive Agency. They are suffering a lot, and I will give the floor to Christina Longo, who is one of our the colleague at REA, to tell to tell you how much they are suffering.
Yes, a lot. May I stay there? Because without lunch, I need some support. No? Okay, thank you, Philippe. Thank you, Philippe. Okay, I would like just to say a few words about this specific topic, the CBRN-E, and what we are doing in terms of implementation of the Horizon 2020 program. So this topic has been always in our work program since 2014, where basically we published a specific topic with a specific intention to develop innovation actions. And in fact, we selected for funding one big project with a specific technology to be developed, focused on decontamination after CBRN accidents. So the first approach we had was to focus on integration of existing technologies based on the previous technologies already developed. Instead, in 2016, the approach changed. Because we wanted to create something more structured, kind of mapping within the mapping exercise that Philippe is doing, the big version, let's say. So what we did was to have, instead of one topic and specific technology, we decided to create a framework to support the development of research. And we funded coordination and supporting activity, action, to do what? To put together the SMEs that could bring into the market the technology developed, to help them, but also to have more focus on what really the member states need. And in fact, this coordination and support action in Circle produced a catalog based on real needs of the practitioners, because they analyzed the specific gaps and they suggested what was really needed. So in a kind of mapping. And thanks to this action, the year after, in 2017, lots of research and innovation actions proposals were submitted, but they were already focused on real needs, led by SMEs, like it was requested by us, and focused also on cooperation to create links, okay, and to work in order to avoid fragmentation, overlapping, repetition of the same technology. So still research, still the ideas of the researchers, but in a more structured way. And thanks to the call in 2017, three actions, three projects were funded, with focusing on different technologies. And in 2019, we will continue in this respect. So we want to attract more and more researchers to develop new technologies, again, still to work with Encircle, still in a structured way, possibly also complementing what the European Defence Agency is doing, and always with our help. But we are trying to help you develop technology in a structured way, but we also need your help, because more and more it's important to create a positive feedback for the policymakers. They need also your opinion, your recommendations. They need to know about the lessons learned that you can transfer to them, because this process is very important to improve our efficiency and the way we will develop the new programs in the future. And for this reason, we will invite you, the research executive agencies and the POs in charge of monitoring your projects. We will invite you drafting a concluding paper in order to get this information and transfer it to DG Home in a structured way. So I invite you to cooperate, to be proactive, and to take advantage of this framework that we created, because it's for your benefit, but also to help us improve in the future by providing your opinion and your recommendations.
Thank you very much, Christina. Well, I will now enter into a more policy discussions, and I will first invite while the person who is in charge of the main CBRN policy, Victor Voitas, please. You have some slides, Victor? Yeah. Well, either you speak here or you take the microphone. It's up to you. I think it's... Yeah, it's working.
To change the slides? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victor Voitas. I work in DG Home in Terrorism and Radicalization Unit, and I'm responsible for CBRN policy in our DG. Today, I would like to give you a brief, let's say, update on what keeps us busy in DG Home, well, in Terrorism and Radicalization Unit of DG Home. When it comes to CBRN, basically, the past, year, more than a year now, we've been focused on the chemical threat. So probably know, but just as a reminder, the Australia plot, which happened in summer 2017, it was an attempt to, well, there were two parts. First one was an attempt to put an explosive device on a plane, on an Etihad plane to Abu Dhabi from Australia. And then there was a second, less known part, which was an attempt to build a chemical device in order to release a toxic gas, probably on the plane or on the bus, or it's not fully clear. What was particularly interesting about this case and worrying in a way was that the elements for the device were sent directly by ISIS operatives in the war theater. It was sent from Turkey, but basically the expertise came from Syria, and it was sent to Australia, and they were also providing instructions on how to assemble this. So if it can happen in Australia, it can perfectly happen in Europe as well. And the device that they wanted to create, they wanted to release basically hydrogen sulfide, which is extremely easy to use, and it's very toxic. What you see in the right upper side, there are statistics from Japan. So basically, people use this type of chemical to commit suicides. And as you can imagine, there were not only chemical experts committing suicides, there were also children or teenagers, for example, or older people. So if you have more than 500 deaths from this substance, it means that it's really easy to use it, and it's really accessible. You can also purchase appropriate ingredients online, precursors of this device. So it's and these are three gentlemen who wanted to commit a terrorist attack. So that was very worrying for us. But what was in a way helpful for us was Salisbury attack. It was not, of course, not a terrorist attack, but it drew a lot of attention. And it was highly on the political agenda. The United Kingdom wanted to make it, a common European issue, and they succeeded. So, following this case, DG Home started to really accelerate work in relation to the chemical threat. We were asked by heads of states and governments to do that, basically. Here are the actions which we were supposed to implement following that. One of the most important, we started with working together with member states in order to develop the list of chemical substances which can be used for that type of attacks. This work has been finalized by now. We started to engage with detection equipment manufacturers. I know that some of you are here today as well, in order to see how we can enhance the performance of the equipment. Perhaps certain substances were not included in the library, so that's the type of work that we are doing. We had a few meetings also with manufacturers of certain chemicals and with online platforms to see how we can restrict, limit accessibility of these substances. So these were things which were really keeping us busy for the past year. And then following the Salisbury attack, it turned out that not only we have to take care of the chemicals, but also the biological threat is also very much present. And again, similar scenario, easily accessible precursors on the internet. In case of cologne, it was arising, so you can easily purchase castor beans online. It's really available on Amazon, for example. I don't want to blame Amazon. You can find it everywhere. You can find it in nature as well. So it's not a problem. But this had another interesting aspect that you can find a lot of information online, tutorial video films, how to produce ricin. And again, it's super easy to do that. You don't need any education basically to do that. And similar cases are popping up every now and then. Here is a case from Sardinia from November when a man was arrested and he was plotting to poison water supply system with, well, it was mentioned ricin and anthrax in the publication. So as most of you know, we have a CBRN action plan to enhance preparedness against CBRN security risks. This is our basis for work. We believe, as you could see there are credible indications that terrorists want to use CBRN. We see that there are technical developments which make it even easier. And we see a lot of propaganda. Of course, propaganda doesn't mean that something will happen, but it will take basically one inspired individual to make an effort and to produce something that can cause a lot of panic, basically, because it doesn't have to be extremely lethal, and it doesn't mean that many people have to die in order for terrorists to win in a way. So the action plan, there are 4 objectives. Reducing the accessibility. I mentioned already that we talked to different companies to see how we can better control who is buying these precursors. More robust preparedness. For example, last week we had a multi-cross-border exercise going through 6 member states, actually, starting in Poland and Slovakia, Czech Republic, through Germany to Belgium, and then on Friday we had a final exercise in France. Then building stronger internal, external links. 2 weeks from now we are going to have a workshop with the US, for example, on joint criminal epidemiological investigations. And the last one, which is basically why we are here, enhancing our knowledge of CBRN risks. And it has 2 parts: creation of a EU CBRN security network, which includes also Europol, but member states representatives who are gathered in the advisory group, but also harnessing the benefits of EU research. This is, Philip is doing a great job. In D2, in our unit, we don't really have time, so we rely on Philip that he will do that perfectly. But one of the most important things for us is to identify further research needs. So this is very good what was mentioned before regarding the in-notice program, project. But also standardization. It takes a lot of time, but you know, in our unit we are very much focused on what is happening right now, and you know, we cannot really afford, due to the lack of resources, to have a long-term, you know, process for certain things. But the standardization, we acknowledge the importance of this, and we really encourage that in the CBRN area. And just a few things, just to close, a few things that we are not yet extremely worried about, but some things that will come in the couple of years. Drones, that's nothing new, but drone swarms, that's something more complicated, and for the moment it's more question for military, perhaps, how to use it and how to defend against it. But I believe in a couple of years, in a few years, this is the type of technology which will be available to everybody. And there is an upcoming legislation on the UAVs in the EU, but it's focused on safety issues. Security is not so much present there, so drone swarms are dangerous enough without CBRN. If you add CBRN component to that, it can be really difficult to provide protection against that. Then disruptive technologies in the biological area, we've been talking and hearing about gene editing technologies and so on. For the moment, perhaps it's not yet there. It's not yet available to everybody. But this is also a fast developing area. And the last one, insider threat, nothing new, but even though the problem has been around for many years, there is no perfect solution, especially at the EU level. In case of European Union with Schengen area, with free flow of persons, background checks for people who used to work in different member states, this is something that we are really struggling with and need to find a solution for that. That's also in relation to what happened in Belgium in Doel. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Victor. Well, we'll have very little time for questions, so maybe we'll see at the end of the session, or they will go directly to you. Well, you can sit here. So I will continue with the international dimension and invite Tristan Simonard to come on the floor. Is it possible to just slow down this one, because I'm feeling like a lobster, and I will come back home sunburnt, and my wife will not believe that I've been working all day, So it's merci, François. Tu veux ça?
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, good afternoon. I'd like to give you some update on the EU CBRN Centers of Excellence initiative, maybe some background also, and address potential connections or already existing connection with the CoU on CBRN. This EU initiative was launched in 2010 and has reached today a global dimension, except in the Americas, but we are covering now 62 countries worldwide, split into 8 regions, and each partner country is invited to contribute to this network by our different activities that are focusing, first of all, on the mirroring to some extent what the EU is doing, in particular taking inspiration in the EU CBRN Action Plan, or even in EU member states CBRN governance activities. We are to reach that objective. We are supporting different things with each of our partner countries, knowing that this is fully voluntary, bottom-up initiative, which is tackling all kinds of CBRN risk and threats. So not only intentional, but also, and in many countries, accidental, environmental, linked to climate change also in some regions, and which is promoting basically 4 actions. First is to invite partner countries to discuss with us and share and use a methodology to assess their gaps and needs. Second, to address the risk dimension, either alone or with our support, and in particular our colleagues from the Joint Research Center that are very active in those missions. And third, by inviting all partner countries to develop their own national CBRN action plans. More than 20 have been engaged in this process, so have been have reached a state of approving formally by their government, their parliaments, action plans. Many are working on that, and more than 50% have carried out all this first assessment of the needs and gaps. Keeping in mind that the overall objective is to promote a culture of security on CBRN issues, to better protect the EU with the regional dimension on global issues that those countries are also facing. So we are dealing with a lot of interactions. We promote regional activities, and one of our main capacity building programs are targeting regional projects, regional actions that are discussed with the partner countries during regional roundtables 2 or 3 times a year. So together we discuss about taking into account what they have assessed. We discuss where we could provide some additional complementary support. We ask them also to share as much as they can what is already existing in their country and for example, in-kind contribution, or even sharing some experts from their country or some facilities with other neighboring countries. So we really try to promote this, some call it South-South, but I would say it would be maybe more accurate to talk about cross-border cooperation. And so not only relying on what the EU can provide in terms of expertise, in terms of funding, but also what they can, in a spirit of partnership, what they can share with us and implement in the context of regional dimensions. So to give some examples on activities, we are strongly also promoting regional action plans that can tackle some of priorities that have been agreed by those countries. In Central Asia, for example, they have now approved a process to work on a regional action plan to tackle CBRN risk, focused on, let's say, on their obligation under the treaty, under the UN Security Resolution 1540. So they decided to go in that direction, and we will facilitate them to draft a document. It's a very long process, but it's an example of activities we are carrying on. We are also pretty much in contact with all partners and stakeholders in the regions, in the countries, and international organizations, of course, and regional organizations like the OSCE and others. And we are also responding to sometimes to specific requests of a country represented by his national CBRN focal point or his national CBRN team to try to support with EU expertise, with the transfer of EU knowledge or EU industry, some requirements. And so from that angle, we believe that we can contribute to help you as industry, you as applied researchers, you as academics, you as consultants to get closer into contact with those partner countries. So this is certainly something you can rely on this network that you can use if you have any interest to develop CBRN activities or get into contact with those. We can facilitate them, definitely. What I would like to also mention is that on your priority topics or thematics that Philippe mentioned earlier and that are in the program, we see a very strong interest in many partner countries and regions on the CivMil dimension and CBRN, especially when it comes to the preparedness and response. We see a strong interest in some regions like the Middle East, and Lebanon is one concrete example on water security, where we are working with them to contribute to a better protection of water critical infrastructures. We have also a strong interest, especially in the neighborhood of the EU, in the Balkans, Caucasus, Ukraine, Moldova, on CBRN forensics. there is one ongoing activity, but there will be more in the future. We have seen also a strong interest by some countries recently and on how to deploy an efficient, reasonably cheap or at least sustainable system to deploy quickly in the field a mobile CBRN lab to cover biological threats. And we have currently ongoing discussion with 1 or 2 countries to provide a EU solution that could fit to their national or even regional environment. And that's where we come into contact with some of you quite regularly and with an increasing frequency. Another field of concern, interest and concern is what about the chemical preparedness and response. I know time is short. I will not go much further, but I remain available. We remain available for additional interaction, bilateral or in this in the framework of the CoU. And we will come back soon, maybe in a written form, to provide you some more information. By the way, you are also invited to consider joining the network as external people of the Centers of Excellence. We are currently reshaping, reformulating completely the website of the Centers of Excellence, but within a few months it will be completely updated and with potentially an interesting aspect for you to consider by joining and finding all information, and also some of the contact points, not everything, because there will be a part, there is a part which is secured, and that's an example. Another and maybe last example of ongoing collaboration between the CoU, or at least security research, and the CoE, standing for Centers of Excellence, is the maybe one of the best recent example is the eNotice project or contract, because we managed, thanks to the effort of the consortium in charge of eNotice, thanks to the effort of DG Home in charge of this contract, and our request, and the request from our partner countries, to get access to this database. So now we have invited all our partner countries to register, to fill in where appropriate, of course, and progressively complete this database of particularly on CBRN training facilities. Thank you very much. I will remain available for some questions later.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tristan. Well, as I said, we are a little bit short in time, so you will have the possibility to catch either Victor or Tristan in snack and drink session, so don't hesitate. And I would like to invite now Margarida Goulart from GRC. You are going alone, or I'd call you the two of us? It's a surprise? Okay. Okay. So in fact, it's a tandem. It's Margarida and Josephine within the room. So they will be a kind of play theater role, and I leave you with the GRC issue.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Margarida Goulart. I work in the Joint Research Center of the European Commission here in Brussels, and I'm happy to be joined by more than one colleague from the JRC from GIL. Josephine McCourt is sitting there, and I'm very much welcome that she will complement the presentation. And now I don't see the other colleagues, but we have also Benny Guypens and Michael Berglund that are there in the back. So I'll give you a very brief overview of the GRC activities, in particular what maybe could be more synergic and what could be interesting for you to explore in terms of collaborations. If I can get this to work. Okay. So most of you know already the GRC. We're the science service of the European Commission, and we have a number of actually very interesting research facilities. Unfortunately, not in Brussels, so where I work. Although I am a scientist as a background, I don't have any of the nice toys that my colleagues have in the JRC sites. So we have one site, one nuclear site here in Belgium, another one in Germany, in Karlsruhe, in Italy, in Ispra. Most of you know this location, and in the Netherlands, in Petten and in Sevilla. We have around 3,000 staff, and we have 80% of our core staff with PhDs, so we're really a scientific organization. We've been involved since the beginning in the community of users, and we're very happy to be so, because we've been a little bit a hub of CBRN scientific and technical support in the Commission since before we started working with Philippe on reducing the fragmentation, working more together, working on synergies, working with the different stakeholders. And as we see it, we have 4 dimensions in our activities. And maybe that's what makes us a CBRN-E hub, because we have a number of different science interests that fall in these realms. So we have a mandate to give support to our policy, to the policy DGs that are our partners in the Commission, so we have to keep track very closely of the policy dimension. We are a research institution, and we continue to have our research agenda, both institutional and the one that comes from our partnerships. So here we have all the connections to the more academic research stakeholders. We have a strong historical interest in standardization and technology assessment. So here we've engaged already very much in the past and continue to do so with the industry stakeholders, with the users, with the needs, with the technology performance assessment in itself, and by giving our input, which is very neutral, because we have no particular commercial interest in it, to the standardization organizations. And from all of this, we are also a natural partner on capacity building. So this is what I wanted you to keep in mind, is that the JRC is active and is able to give support in all these dimensions. And I'll give you just a few examples, as I promised. It's not going to be an extensive presentation. A few examples of what we do in each one and how we could collaborate more with you on each one. So as you are probably very much aware, that JRC has been a partner in a number of projects in the framework program. So in FP7, in Horizon 2020 now, and we'll see for the future for Horizon Europe. I have here a few examples. Equitox, I'm sure that you know about it. It was an FP7 program looking at the detection of toxins and how it could be harmonized in Europe. Then we worked also in Seaboard, which is a project with a number of member states on fast detection of containers at borders using a combination of several technologies. Then we have also institutional research, and we've been working, for example, in the CoU chip on this bioagent ID using immobilized small peptides to use as probes. So this is all little bits and pieces of what we do together. But from now on, we would like to start working on with a different approach. We will no longer be, how can I put it, competing for the projects under the framework programs. Rather, we'll be a guaranteed partner of the consortium that wins the projects. In this sense, that's the line that I have there in the end, of opening access, of having an open access to our infrastructures in the JRC to all interested parties, of course, with a call for proposals and with a proper selection of the proposals, to our facilities. And the first facilities that will be open will be our nuclear facilities. So we have the Jolina accelerator, for example, in Geel. We have also the Monet facility of Van de Graaf, also in Geel. We have an underground low radiation lab, also in Geel. There's also some interesting facilities in Karlsruhe. So this is something that probably most of you hadn't heard of, and will be our new approach to the framework programs, financing and research from now on. Then, continuing in that 4 dimensions, from all this expertise that we've accumulated from the partnerships, from the research, from the fact that we are a scientific institution, as I said, we're a natural partner for capacity building. And as you've heard from my colleague Tristan just before, we are extremely involved in the Centers of Excellence initiative. There we provide really a backbone of scientific support regarding the needs assessment, the development of national action plans, and then the evaluation of the activities. Because a lot of what's done in the centers of excellence in core business of capacity building is training. So we have become very, along the years, quite resourceful on training that we conduct ourselves and on training that we do jointly. And from the last action plan implementation, we've set up this EU sector nuclear security training school, training center, in which we train member state delegates, we train partner countries, officials, we train in partnership with the US, with the IAEA, and we're very now interested in working with DG Home in this new project of trying to harmonize training across Europe, so bringing all this background expertise into this new effort. Then we are also a very interesting partner for exercises. So when your projects or your member states are interested in implementing an exercise, both at national level or cross-border, we have already some material that we can help with that. We work on nuclear forensics, and there we are also a reference in the EU, and we've increased more and more synergies between the different letters of the CBRN, so not only looking at the RN part, but also looking at the chemical part, with the Major Accident Hazards Bureau, which will be focused in one of the sessions of this event, and also with the Disaster Risk Management Knowledge Center. Don't forget also in your projects that we have an EU CBRN-E glossary. It's translated into all languages of the member states, all EU official languages, and also in Russian and Arabic. And it's actually a very interesting tool, even if you use it just for technical translations very quickly and validated. Finally, in this aspect of capacity building, and something that's coming for the future, is the training harmonization component, because we are using the investment that the Commission and the Member States have done in the Centers of Excellence development of training modules, and we're trying to bring that back in a validated and harmonized format that can be used as shareware, to be seen as openware, so for all the communities, or for only the people involved in the networks, but it will be a referential for the future. And finally, support to standardization. As I said, it's something that we continue to do. We continue to be involved in the different technical committees, and we've developed, and we are now handing it over. We've developed a methodology of technology assessment, and we started by implementing that on the RN detection technologies. But we have a very nice protocol, a very nice model that can be explored on how to go through this type of assessments, both for all areas, for the bio area that we're also considering starting, for the chemical area, and eventually also for the some parts of it for the explosive area. So we have implemented during some years under this mandate a standardization help desk. And we'll hear a lot about standardization probably starting tomorrow and towards the next day. And here it's also an interesting, some interesting information that I can bring you a bit later on how exactly, did we feel, what did we learn from what were the needs in standardization clarifications that you would get when you open up a help desk such as this. Finally, just to summarize, we do all of this because we support EU policy. So we support the CBRN Action Plan, we support the EU Explosives Action Plan, the European Security Agenda, and we also support the foreign policy of the EU in terms of security, and also in terms of something that was important, that was mentioned here, of dual-use materials and the control that should be put on the dissemination and the acquisition of these dual-use goods. So we want to continue doing that more and more and continuing to be a hub of integration rather than a fragmentation. So thank you very much. I'll leave now the floor for my colleagues if they want to complement with something.
Thank you very much, Margarida. Well, we are running late in time. So did you plan to have something to say, Josephine? But don't hesitate to Gregory breakout. You see, you have several GRC colleagues. You can trap them. They will be here today and tomorrow as well. So just you can really ask questions with also Victor and Tristan, and obviously Christina. Myself, I will escape. You know, I would like to close this common introduction. Thank you very much to all speakers for their very good presentations. Inviting you to go to the breakout and coming back in this room for the new actions in CBRN research. Clive, you raise your hand. You know, he is the chairman for this one, so he will be animating the discussions. Is Rolf Jan here? Probably he's already downstairs with Maureen. He will be dealing with Maureen chemical accident Seveso downstairs, and then immediately, well, try to be sharp in time because there will be a very small break between the two panels. The CBRN forensic will come in this room under the chairmanship, not about Janet who could not come, but about from Martin. Where is Martin? He's here as well. Okay. And then in the other room, we will have Antonio Parucci. We will be chairing emergencies. Thank you very much. I wish you very good, fruitful discussions.